Hey Generators, it's me Jordan here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now Generators, welcome to my Wonder Woman 1984 spoiler-free review. I have been counting down the days until I see this movie for weeks now. December 16th, probably night of, I'm going into the cinemas, wearing my mask, I'm just gonna go. Like, I can't wait for this anymore. I'll be having my Wonder Woman review up soon. It's going to be so much fun, and I'm so excited. I keep saying this every single week, but Wonder Woman in 2 weeks from today. Well, in a few hours from today. So yeah, I'm really excited, and I'll have my review out next Wednesday. In like 4 days, I'm seeing Wonder Woman 84, so I'm really looking forward to seeing it next week. And last night, I finally got the chance to go and see this movie in cinemas, where it belongs, where it was made for, and I just love the experience so much. Being back at the cinema for a blockbuster movie was absolutely so much fun. And you know, you can't get the same experience that you get from being in a theater on HBO Max, in my opinion. Like, there was even a moment in the movie where my chair was like vibrating. Like, the experience is just exhilarating. You have to see it in the theater if you can. It was absolutely so much fun. But anyway, so obviously, as the title suggests, this is a spoiler-free review. So I won't be talking about anything that wasn't shown in a trailer, promotional picture, or I've seen it was revealed. Everything else is obviously a spoiler, so I won't tell you guys any of that. Only things that were shown in trailers, promotional pictures, and in clips. And if you don't even want that, then I recommend just not watching this video at all, going to see the movie, and then coming back to watch this. But if that's alright with you, then continue on with the spoiler-free review. Please don't leave any spoilers in the comments for the people who haven't seen it. But anyway, so I'm really excited to discuss this with you today. If you want me to, I might be doing a spoiler review, so let me know in the comment section down below, or like this video, if you want me to do a spoiler review. I'd really love to do that. But anyway, I'm so excited to discuss this movie with you guys today, so let's just get started. Without further ado, this is my Wonder Woman 1984 spoiler-free review. Here we go.
Okay, so I just met Stephen Amell.
The cinematography of this movie was incredible. Now, if you've seen any of my movie reviews before, you know how it works as I break it down into 3 sections, which are the things that I loved about the movie, the things that were okay, and the things that I just did not like about the movie at all. So let's get started with the first topic in this video, which is the good stuff, the things that I actually really enjoyed about this movie. Here we go. Now, the first thing in this category I wanted to discuss is the fact that this movie is nothing like the first movie, like, at all. You know, the first movie was a very grounded, like, sort of war film, you know, it was quite serious, actually, especially towards the end, whereas this movie is set in the 1980s, which that alone is a very, you know, tonal shift, but it's also, like, very campy, and, like, it actually feels like a superhero movie rather than, like, a war film, like the previous one did. And I love that director Patty Jenkins was, like, not afraid to take these big risks and explore different, like, tones and vibes, and in my opinion, it paid off well. Now, did it actually live up to the first movie is the big question. I've got to say no, it didn't, and I will explain why a bit later on. But that's not to say that this movie was a bad movie, not at all. It's just that it didn't live up to the first movie, which is just better. But this doesn't mean it was bad, the other one was just better. Now, speaking of director Patty Jenkins, her direction, along with the incredible cinematography within this movie, was absolutely amazing. Most notably in the opening scene in Themyscira, which was revealed last weekend at the DC Fandom, like, world premiere event, where there's, like, the Themyscira Olympics or whatever. The visuals are absolutely breathtaking. Like, I feel bad for all of you guys who have to watch it on, like, HBO Max or even pirate it because HBO Max isn't available where you live, or because theaters are closed or whatever where you are. So I feel really bad for you, because seeing it in the cinema was absolutely amazing. Like, having surround sound and, like, this massive screen, it was breathtaking. I loved it so much. Like, this is what the movie was made for. It was designed for the cinemas, and if possible, this is what it must be watched on, because you can't get the same experience on HBO Max. Trust me. Now, while the CGI/screen work was abysmal, in my opinion, it was not great at all. It was actually quite terrible. The use of shots and scenery was very well handled in order to create scenes and, like, set the vibe, whatever, throughout the entire movie, and I really enjoyed it. Now let's discuss the cast. The cast absolutely thrive in this movie. Gal Gadot returns and gives an incredibly charismatic and charming performance as Diana Prince. She's just amazing. Just like how Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man, and, like, Hugh Jackman is Wolverine, and, like, Mark Hamill is Luke Skywalker, Gal Gadot is Wonder Woman. Now, I know there's, like, Linda Carter and all those, which people grew up with, so, you know, it's very sentimental for them. In my opinion, Gal Gadot is Wonder Woman, and I cannot see anybody else playing her. Like, she's just amazing, and she gets better every single time. Like, she was okay in Batman vs Superman, and then, you know, she had her first movie, which was absolutely amazing, and then Justice League, she was pretty good in that, and this movie, just amazing. She was absolutely amazing. Like, oh, she was so good. Her chemistry with Chris Pine was absolutely amazing, and she pulls off some very emotional scenes very, very well, which I won't spoil, but she pulls them off so well. Oh, she's so good in this movie. Kristen Wiig was also a great casting for Barbara Minerva, and the character development of which Barbara, has throughout the entire movie was very well portrayed, in my opinion, and told. It was really, really good. Like, as the trailers and the clips show, Barbara starts off as a very shy and introverted person, and she's very socially awkward and all that sort of stuff, and then once something happens to her, which, as I said, I won't spoil, she begins to grow more confidence, and then at the end she becomes the cheater to fight Wonder Woman. She actually got more character development than Wonder Woman herself, the title of the movie, which is a bit ironic, but she had a great storyline throughout the entire movie. And there's one scene, which I won't spoil, I think it's in the trailer or something, she's doing something in this alley, and I won't discuss what she does, but that scene was awesome. Like, what she does and what happens in that scene, it's a really good scene. One of my favourite scenes of the movie. But for me, the real MVP and, the real standout throughout the entire movie is Pedro Pascal, who was in Game of Thrones, Mandalorian, and now Wonder Woman. So he's literally in every fandom. But he was amazing in this movie. I cannot stress that enough. He was absolutely amazing. Now, while the actual character of Maxwell Lord himself is flawed, and I don't really like everything that they did with this character, more on this later, Pedro's performance is absolutely phenomenal as Maxwell Lord. And his dynamics with somebody in particular, which I won't spoil unless it's in a trailer, I'll just put it up on screen right now, but if it's not, yeah, his dynamics with this person is just, it's amazing. He's really good. And he's just a great actor. He just doesn't hold back, and he just lets go and just goes all the way into this character, and he just lets loose, and he's just so good in this movie. I love him so much. Now, speaking of Gal Gadot and Chris Pine, contrary to popular belief, at least from what I've seen online and stuff like that, I actually enjoyed the way of which Steve Trevor returns. Like, it actually serves the narrative in a compelling way, and also deals with the consequences as a result of bringing him back, and Diana has to learn a tough lesson, which I also won't spoil. And that also ties into the flashback at the beginning of the movie, that she learns an important lesson, and then she uses that throughout the entire movie. I thought that was really, really good. Although he's basically just used as a plot device throughout the entire movie to drive the narrative forward, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing either. I think it was great, and I think it was well handled, and I loved seeing Chris Pine back in the DCEU because I thought it was great in the original Wonder Woman movie. There were also some amazing fan service moments throughout the entire movie, like really digging into the Wonder Woman lore in the comics, which of course I won't spoil. It's something really quite special. There are a few defining moments in this movie I loved, and without giving away any of the actual details, it was just a great payoff to certain things that people have been wanting, or people have been thinking that it might happen, and there were some certain moments. I think it's in the trailer, right? I don't know. There's a plane and they're flying through fireworks. That moment is quite good, and it's a bit of fan service there. So I won't say anything beyond that. Now, while most of it didn't really mean anything in the long run, nor really make any sense, there were some great scenes regardless, and I really enjoyed them. And the final thing in this category is the phenomenal score by Hans Zimmer. That's it. That's all I've got to say. The score. You know me, I love me some Man of Steel, and the soundtrack is one of my favorite things about that movie because of Hans Zimmer. He's a literal legend. It's so good. Hans once again comes back with a score that is absolutely breathtaking, which for me was also one of the main takeaways from this movie, that helped define this movie and every single scene. I've literally had it on repeat on Spotify for days now. It's so good. Especially the first song called Games, and the song where she's running down the street and she jumps up in the air. The music in those scenes, oh, so good. Even in that first trailer, you can tell that, we were in for a special treat from Hans, and it definitely paid off throughout the entire movie. I love Wonder Woman's iconic theme. It's become iconic in the DCEU. It's so good. I love it so much. Now, while currently I'm saying all these amazing things about the movie, there were a lot of flaws to this movie. So let's get on with the next topic, which is the mixed stuff, the things that I didn't love, nor did I hate, I just thought were or just average, or maybe even below average. This is the mixed stuff. Here we go. Now, one thing I didn't like about this movie, I didn't hate it, nor did I think it was terrible. If I did, it'd be in the bad stuff. I just thought it was and that's the specific object of which is used as a MacGuffin throughout the entire movie. Just as the necklace, in Birds of Prey, is used as a MacGuffin, where Black Mask or whatever his name is tries to get this necklace or whatever. A specific object of which I believe is shown in the trailer of Maxwell Lord holding it, which I won't spoil anything else beyond that, is used as the MacGuffin in the movie. Now, it's hard to say this spoiler free, but while I like how it was used in regards to one specific character and the consequences as a result of using this object, I don't really like how it was used in regards to Maxwell Lord, specifically in the final battle between Wonder Woman and Maxwell Lord. And, all the rules surrounding this object was also completely thrown out of the window in the final battle in order to, allow for the scope to be bigger and larger. Because obviously, the first movie was a war, and they wanted to make it this even larger and, a global event. And they made the scope so much larger, and in doing so, it allowed for some consistency and some logic to just be thrown out of the window. But, going based off of what was said earlier on in the movie, this shouldn't be possible, what happens. Although it's a superhero movie, so that in amongst itself, it's obviously going to be unrealistic. Even in the context of this world, we had to suspend a lot of disbelief in the movie, where things are very inconsistent or just don't make any sense whatsoever. And also the pacing in this movie is a little bit off. Now obviously there's not much action in this movie, with literally all the action scenes, being shown in the trailer. When there are action scenes, it literally hits you like a truck, no pun intended because of the trailer. It's because the pacing's off. And then when there aren't any action scenes, the movie just drags on. And now this is also due to the length of the movie, which is 2.5 hours, so it's quite long. And I'll discuss a bit more about the length later on. The opening half an hour of this movie is really, if not, it's actually amazing. I really loved it so much. It has this montage of, the Themyscira Olympics, where she's riding a horse through the jungle and everything like this. And then there's a montage of Wonder Woman saving people, which is a clip also shown right now, with in the mall, jumping on this platform. And it's this cool montage and everything. And then the next hour and a half just drags on of, setting up the villains and giving them development. And, due to the length and the pacing of this movie, this felt excruciatingly long, and, it just dragged on. However, although I'll discuss this in a little bit, I didn't really enjoy the ending because it just didn't really make sense and didn't really tie any loose endings. It was still engaging due to the action. The action is what I look for in a superhero movie. I mean, the story as well, of course, but when you say a superhero movie, you think of action. And when you say there's not much action, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's just it just doesn't define a superhero movie as a no action. So, well, barely any action at least. So that's why it's in the mixed category. Now, speaking of the bad stuff, let's get to the things that I just did not like about this movie whatsoever. This is the bad stuff. Here we go. Now, speaking of the ending, I didn't really like how this movie concluded. While I didn't hate it, it just didn't really provide the satisfying conclusion I was hoping for. And, I was literally on the edge of my seat waiting to see as to, how Wonder Woman will stop Maxwell Lord and Cheetah from doing this, and, save the day. And it most definitely did not live up to what I was hoping for. Not only did I not like how the villain's plan was concluded, but there were a lot of loose ends surrounding, the villains, and, not much closure in the movie. The ending just didn't really make sense and was very rushed without giving any real thought to it, as to consistency or even a satisfying conclusion to the story. I don't know. Obviously, there's most likely going to be a third movie coming, so we'll probably tie these stories up then, but I just didn't really like that it just left us, open-ended at the end of the movie. Now, speaking of these villains, while I loved Kristen Wiig and Pedro Pascal in these roles as Cheetah and Maxwell Lord, the actual characters themselves were quite flawed. As I said before, a large majority of the movie is used to set these villains up, even more so than Wonder Woman. And additionally, as I said before, the object used by Maxwell was very inconsistent in how it works and stuff like that, and didn't lead to a satisfying conclusion. We even barely see Barbara as Cheetah in this movie, and there's no real reason as to why she chooses to be a cheetah in particular. She says something brief about being a warrior or something like that, and then she just shows up as a cheetah. No, I know how she became Cheetah, but there's no explanation as to why a cheetah specifically. It's really weird. There was also a large portion of Max's story arc which didn't really need to happen in my opinion. I feel like the last half an hour or whatever would have made up for that half an hour miss of, his storyline or whatever in the middle. It's really hard to speak about this without spoiling it. But if you've seen it and you get what I mean, what happens in the final battle could have summarized what happens up throughout the entire movie, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense if you've seen it or not. Now, speaking of length and everything, this movie was extremely long with a 2.5 hour runtime. It really did not need to be this long. Now, this was totally unnecessary, and in my opinion was the main problem that had to kill this movie for me. This also ties into what I was saying before about the pacing. Had this movie been, say, 20 minutes shorter or whatever, the unnecessary moments could have been removed, and the movie would have been much more enticing in my opinion. It's funny how even though a large majority of the movie was used to set up these villains, they still didn't really make any sense regardless. And I guess you could say cutting it even more would make it make less sense. But I feel like for me, the main problem is the length of the movie. It's not Endgame. It doesn't need to be almost 3 hours, or 2.5 hours. Finally, now this may sound harsh, it definitely will, but I found the CGI and mostly the green screen work abysmal. I said this before. I thought it was atrocious. I don't know who approved on this. It looks like it was the first cut of the movie and hadn't done the rough edits. It was terrible. Now, don't listen to Disgrace Randolph, who actually blocked me on Twitter a few weeks ago. Don't ask me why. Anyway, don't listen to her. No. The green screen work was not fixed in the final cut. Now, I know that Patty Jenkins said that she wanted as much practical stunt work as possible. This did not really help the movie. Like, trust me, I feel like they could have done it just, you know, with CGI and stuff like that. Like, even in that scene that they revealed at the MTV Awards where she's running down the street and the green screen and all that sort of stuff. And another scene, which I won't spoil, but it's like a climactic moment of the movie. The green screen work took me out of these scenes, and I just did not like it. And it ruined the entire scene for me. It was so distracting. So yeah, perhaps a better move might have been to do more CGI work, which would help the running and stuff like that, and also fix the green screen work, because I don't know who approved on that. But I don't know what went wrong with that. But that's really all the good, mixed and bad stuff about this movie. Of course, if you do want a full spoiler review, let me know in the comment section down below. I have a lot of thoughts on like the specific objects and stuff like that, which I can discuss in more detail if you've seen the movie, or if I can discuss spoilers. So let's just get on with the conclusion. So, in conclusion, what did I think about this movie? Did it live up to its predecessor? I'm gonna say no. Now, just because I'm saying that, it does not mean that this movie is a bad movie. It just means it's not as good as the first movie. Now, in my opinion, I think you actually shouldn't really compare the two movies because they're two completely different movies tonally. Like, one's basically like a grounded war movie and it's quite serious, whereas the other one's like a cheesy superhero movie set in the 80s. But because, this movie is a sequel to the first one, obviously the comparison will always be there. But I just don't think it's right to do so because they're so different. Now, the first movie also has its flaws, like the villain just comes out of nowhere and has like no build-up whatsoever, and we just find out that he's the UK Army leader or whatever. But like, other than that, it's a really great movie. However, this movie has more flaws than the first. Now, although I've talked a lot about its flaws, this is not to say that the movie is bad. Not at all. Not at all. No, I'm not saying that at all. It is just decent at best. I think it has a phenomenal cast and beautiful direction and cinematography and beautiful scoring by Patty Jenkins and Hans Zimmer respectively. However, the movie faults in the uses of the villains and the specific object, and the main problem for me, which was the pacing and the length of the movie. Now, me saying this should not discourage you from watching it. I highly recommend it. However, just don't be in a rush to see it opening night in the theaters or HBO Max. Just try not to get spoiled about the big moments in this movie because, they're awesome scenes and they're so great to see without being spoiled. But just don't be in a rush to see it opening night. So overall, I would give this movie a 7 out of 10. This is definitely a rewatchable movie. I might even this weekend. I just think, as I said before, those were the main problems. But yeah, that is my spoiler-free review of Wonder Woman 1984. And of course, as I said before, if you want a spoiler-filled review, be sure to comment down below and like this video. And I've posted a brief spoiler review on my Discord server, so if you join that and go to the Wonder Woman 1984 spoiler chat, my brief spoiler review is summarized there. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the post notifications so you guys know when I next upload my video. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I love talking about Wonder Woman 84 with you guys today. And also, by the time this video comes out, it'll be December 25th worldwide. So Merry Christmas to all you guys that celebrated. I hope you have a very Merry Christmas with the family and stay safe or whatever. But if you don't celebrate, have happy holidays. And I hope you have a great day regardless. And it's also my 4-year anniversary today on YouTube too, so yeah. But thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys next time. My name is Jordan, and I am out. Bye!